Yesterday, California released an exhaustive report that details its role in perpetuating discrimination against Black Americans. This per the AP. The 500-page document lays out the harm suffered by descendants of enslaved people even today, long after slavery was abolished in the 19th century through discriminatory laws and actions in all facets of life, from housing and education to employment and the legal system. This is a first of its kind report that we need more of, because the reality is that Black people today suffer as a result of the legacy that has been created and built upon lack of generational wealth, which is in part why we have so many student loans, access to homes and having opportunities to buy. All of these things, they happen post-slavery, and we are still suffering as a result of them. So for California to make this report and issue recommendations is huge. And some of those recommendations include prison system reforms, so inmates are not forced to work. And if they must work, that they're paid fair market wages, as we've seen with California having a lot of the wildfires, knowing that these firemen who are inmates are being paid pennies on the day. Like it's insane and it's ridiculous, but that's a part of slavery that continues on. Also, that this report, they believe that people should be allowed to vote and to serve on juries, even if they have served time. And that's an incredibly important thing as well. Reparations come in many forms, not necessarily just monetary, and the creation of a state subsidized mortgage program as well to really guarantee that low rates are available for qualifying applicants, free healthcare, free tuition to California colleges, universities, and four-year scholarships. These are also ways in which people can make up for the past that was just yesterday and that still causes us to lose today. And this also per the AP. The report comes at a time when school boards and states across the US are banning books or restricting what can be taught in schools, with parents and lawmakers largely opposed to topics of sexuality, gender, identity, and race. State lawmakers have tried to bar schools from teaching the 1619 Project. That's a New York Times Pulitzer Prize winning report that reframes American history with enslaved people at its heart. Also, Governor Gavin Newsom signed legislation creating a 2-year task force in 2020, making California the only state to move ahead with a study plan. Cities and universities have taken up the cause, with Chicago's suburb of Evanston, Illinois, becoming the first city to make reparations available to Black residents last year. We need more of this because we've seen across the board that a lot of communities and groups, racial groups, ethnic groups, religious groups that have been oppressed, that have been marginalized in a way that was orchestrated by the state, by the country, that they've been paid reparations, that the opportunity to be recognized and to try to make them whole has been done across the board, except for when it comes to Black Americans. And we have to also bear in mind that California, just because it's not in the South, doesn't mean that it's not a home to a number of Black people. California happens to be the home to the 5th largest Black population. That's after Texas, Florida, Georgia, and New York. And while making up 6% of California's population, Black Californians are overrepresented when it comes to the carceral system, as well as when it comes to poverty and the poverty line. And this is something that should be addressed and needs to be addressed. Yasmin.
Yeah, it's definitely way overdue. And you did mention that this is a very recent history for us as a nation, right? We've been oppressing Black people in America since we brought them to this country, since we brought them over to these shores. And even today, there's a lot of debate, especially amongst white people, that there is no systemic racism, that that's not a real thing, that Black people have the same opportunities in this country that white people do today. And maybe that's true. There's a lot of debate that it really isn't, but even if they wanted to make that argument, it still isn't a good argument, because if you go back, all these things, like you're stifling people's advancement from the very beginning, right? From the point that they were slaves to the moment that they were freed. And even here in Texas, we have Juneteenth is coming up. They didn't even tell them that they were free, so they're still stifling people at every stop. And it's only a matter of time before all that kind of catches up. But this country, we have a history of, marginalizing all kinds of communities. A lot of people have felt that in one way or another. And what we've done to Black people in America is one of the most egregious things that we've ever done. And I mean, as far as karma goes in this country, we have to remedy it, or else we as a nation are not going to advance if we're still systemically repressing and suppressing an entire swath of our population.
Absolutely, and it's just, as far as I'm concerned, it's pathetic. And if so many people here in the United States like to say that it is a land of opportunity, that everyone is equal, then put some actions behind your words, because the actions I've seen have been ones of oppression. And I don't have time for that game, and I damn sure don't have time to be lied to. Also, the thing that we do see when it comes to this report, again, not everything is about financial compensation. Sometimes it's simply opportunity, that it's not necessarily clear how many individuals in California of the estimated 2.8 million Black population here in the state are eligible for direct compensation under this report, because the report didn't go into full financial compensation. It has yet to reach that level. But the AP said this in terms of direct compensation: the report should offer other cities and states and ultimately the federal government a blueprint for seeking reparations, members said. Over the next year, the task force will take on the difficult task of crafting an apology and creating a reparations plan to compensate for and stop the harm. So those are the next steps, and that's something that I can definitely get on board with. And people need to educate themselves and inform themselves about what has occurred and what is happening still to Black people in this country. Because simply the thought that, oh, that was a long time ago, you shouldn't complain anymore. Nah, that was just yesterday, and it still happens today. And there have been consequences as a result of that. And it is the reason why so many members of the Black community continue to struggle and to suffer. And it needs to be rectified, and there needs to be reparations.